Bitcoin collection is going to have much value. You know, Beanie Babies, at least they were fuzzy, cuddly, and, fluffy, but Bitcoin is nothing.
Today, folks, with peace and love, I absolutely hate Peter Schiff, and I think he's one of the worst investment advisors on the internet, coming from a kid that lives in his parents' basement that is not a registered financial advisor. I'm just talking out of my ass, and whatever I say has no real meaning or weighted value, I'm sure, but I'm going to explain to you all the reasons I hate this guy and why you should never put your money with him, why I believe he is not only a terrible place to store your value, but even wealth creation in general. And you're like, who the hell is Peter Schiff? If you've been living under a rock, let me zoom out and explain to you this guy that runs Euro Pacific Capital. Basically, he says, as a division of AGP, Alliance Global Partners, an SEC registered investment advisor and broker dealer, we seek to help Americans prepare for changes in the global economy that could erode the value of the dollar and US dollar-based investments. Our stock-focused wealth management program, combined with independent thinking with worldwide research to provide Americans with investment options that are aligned with global trends that may be ignored by mainstream advisors. Please note that our SEC registrations as an investment advisor does not imply any level of skill or training. And hell yeah, I would totally agree with that, because Peter Schiff, bit of a gold bug here. He'll jam gold down your throat. We know he hates Bitcoin. His family doesn't even agree with his investment philosophies, and don't worry, we're going to get to that. But this guy runs mutual funds, and being a kid in his parents' basement, looking for places to put money, I actually listened to this guy once upon a time. And thank God I stopped, because if you go to the very first video I ever posted on this channel, it was me selling the rest of my gold, all the gold that I owned. And I'm sure he wouldn't agree with it, but he was also the guy that led me to buying it. I'm going to come back to that crazy story in a second, but let's first start with the mutual funds. So he runs a half dozen mutual funds, something like Kevin O'Leary does. And I think it's just to take your money, because if we look at the performance of the lifetime of this fund, starting with Europac International Value Fund is down 10%, and with a 1.75% expense ratio, you've already lost 10% over the year, probably more. Taking a look at Europac International Dividend Income Fund. I mean, everyone loves dividend income. Oh crap, down 12.5%. For a 4.5% yield, you're barely breaking even after that expense ratio at 1.5%. EP, Emerging Markets Small Companies Fund. Ooh, the only fund that's doing well, and it's only up 49% since pretty much 2010. Oh God, I wouldn't touch these with a 10-foot pole. Let's continue on here. Europac International Bond Fund. Well, we know bonds are wrecked. There's no point even looking at that. Europac Gold Fund, the thing he jams down everyone's throat, is only up 11.8%. in the last, 7 or 8 years. Oh yeah, wait, the expense ratio to that 1.5%. Say goodbye to all those cap gains. And oh yeah, inflation just ate away a lot of your dollar value. So when you convert this mutual fund back to cash, you're actually losing money. You're like, hey Kyle, you're being harsh, you're being mean, you're being crude here. I mean, why would you say stuff like this? Well, like I said, this was the guy that after 2008 would convince you to pretty much not buy stocks, be paranoid as hell. The whole world is going to come falling down. Don't trust the US dollar. And yeah, I agree. Wealth preservation, you don't want to own dollars. But I'm a business guy, and I came to that Warren Buffett conclusion that why the hell do I want to own a shiny piece of metal? And I do own some of these. Why do I want to own something that sits around when I could own a real business and actually look for fundamental uses of things in society? And you know what happened when that pivotal moment in my brain clicked? I made a shit ton of money. I mean, look at this, guys. Since the same time period of his mutual funds, my accounts, my largest accounts, 300%, 132%, 253% returns. This doesn't come from listening to this bozo. I'm a kid that lives in his parents' basement. Don't take this as financial advice. Hashtag don't sue me, bro. Taking a look at his gold, the stuff that he sells the most. He wants to sell you certificates of gold. He wants to keep it himself and sell you a bloody certificate. He doesn't even really want you to own it. And why would you buy a certificate through this guy? Look at his mutual fund fees. He's just trying to make money off you, selling you trash. I mean, look at this. A 2.25% service fee applies to non-model state residents and retirement accounts. 3% service fees applies to model state residents, and a $50 certificate fee. A 1.25% service fee applies to liquidation. He's already taking your entire year's worth of gains away. And if you're buying real physical gold, guys, it doesn't even go up enough to justify the fees. Look at this. Since 2009, how much is gold really up? What, 70, 80% at the most here, guys? The S&P 500 in the same time period, up 252%. Bitcoin since 2015, only 7 years, is up 14,850 bloody This guy doesn't have a track record that would make me comfortable putting money with him. This gets really intense because his own family is getting stirred into this pot, and I think it would be really uncomfortable if I ended up in this situation, and I don't want to reveal too much of that craziness just yet. I want you to listen to his opinion because he's been arguing with Elon Musk about Bitcoin, and we'll just show a few highlighted clips. Take a listen.
Gold bug and crypto skeptic Peter Schiff taunting Bitcoin believer Elon Musk. Schiff quoted Musk, who, despite investing in Bitcoin on behalf of Tesla, has said Bitcoin is almost, quote, as BS as fiat or government-issued currency. Schiff then tweeted, gold is better than Bitcoin and fiat currency. Musk responded, quote, an email saying you have gold is not the same as having gold. You might as well have crypto. Well, an hour later, Musk caught the world's attention with this follow-up post, quote, that said, BTC, Bitcoin, and ETH, Ethereum, do seem high. You have been a real bear on Bitcoin. We've done our podcast with you. You've articulated this. But, you know, Peter, it is a force right now. Why are you still so against what could be the next big thing as an emerging currency?
It's not an emerging currency. You know, it's a bubble, and it's certainly gotten very large. Look, Elon Musk may be a brilliant engineer, and he may have more money than all of us, but his understanding of money is actually flawed. Bitcoin is not money. Initially, it was intended to be a digital fiat currency, except it didn't really work well as a medium of exchange. So they kind of reinvented it as a store of value, kind of like a digital version of gold, except Bitcoin doesn't have any of gold's value as a metal. And so if it doesn't have any value, it can't be a store of value. All Bitcoin is a digital token. Now, you have people who are collecting Bitcoin, you have people who are trading it, but at the end of the day, when the music stops playing, I don't think a Bitcoin collection is going to have much value. You know, Beanie Babies, at least they were fuzzy, cuddly, and, fluffy, but Bitcoin is nothing. I don't think you're going to have a lot of institutions gambling on Bitcoin.
So look, as many of you know, I don't hate Bitcoin. I was actually against it for the longest period of time, but we're getting this new adoption stream going on. I'm not going to talk about blockchain, why Bitcoin won the race, why I believe Bitcoin doesn't really have any value except for the value we place on it, largely like gold and any other material that we really use in life. It's really the barter here, guys. Like, how much is this thing worth on the supply and demand? Does this become a real currency? I don't know. The largest fintech companies in the world, like PayPal, like Visa, are all getting into Bitcoin. JP Morgan is allowing wallets soon. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me when you look at the way the world is going and you look at the fact that everyone that owns Bitcoin are real rich, huge institutional companies on the forefront of finance. I am not going to be bearish on that. I just can't be. So I myself have been buying Bitcoin as part of my emergency fund. I'm putting a very mitigated amount of capital. I ain't talking like 5% of my portfolio even, but if I have cash laying around, it seems to be doing better here in the near. I don't know what the long term is going to look like, and I'm not going to argue whether this is a good or a bad thing. I tell you guys, you can hate things, you can love things. You can hate gold, you can hate Bitcoin, you can hate the stock market, you can hate China. I don't care what you hate. The reality is you're better off owning all of them, or a little percentage of the things you're not comfortable with and larger percentage of the things you are comfortable with. But this guy to me is a complete moron, and it's coming out in his family right now, guys. Take a look at this. 100% in Bitcoin. Gold bug Peter Schiff's son. His son goes all in on Bitcoin, takes a 180 like against the father's stance here. This is incredible, incredible stuff. Peter Schiff's son has gone all in on Bitcoin. Actually, we can read the direct tweet because I have it on his Twitter here. And I don't know why, like, it's so controversial to post this stuff. And you can tell it's controversial because it's gotten like the most like replies and like retweets and stuff. But it says, my son, Spencer Schiff, went all in on Bitcoin in the last drop below 50K. 100% of his portfolio is now in Bitcoin. He sold the last of his silver stock to raise the cash. If my own son is this brainwashed, imagine how vulnerable most kids are. He's hodling to infinity or bust. And I don't understand how you live in a household where your father is Peter Schiff, this financial guru, this guy that's responsible for, talking about the destruction of the dollar and all this insanity, and he can't even convince his own family to do like a financially intelligent investment. In my opinion, I would not go 100% all in Bitcoin. That to me is crazy, but I feel like that could be coming from a stance place of listening to his father for the last 20 or 30 years of his life. And he's like, you know what? Don't care, Dad. But from my personal perspective, I believe in a diversified portfolio for the longevity of in the wealth preservation, right? Like, this is why gold might be important. Wealth preservation, yeah, it holds its value pretty good, but you ain't gonna get growth. I would rather own some growth stocks. Like, I like being diversified, and I think it's more appropriate to be diversified. I followed his advice. I bought $30,000 or $40,000 worth of gold once upon a time, and I started this YouTube channel when I decided to liquidate all of it because it's just the stupidest investment ever. Is it a place to store value? Yeah, if you're a billionaire, you got an extra couple mil laying around, you're like, I need to put this somewhere safe. Gold, maybe not a bad idea, but Bitcoin in the last 5-10 years, a much better idea. The reality is, in this very moment, Bitcoin has been the greatest performing asset out of everything, and hate it or love it, for as long as that's the reality, you can't argue it. So I pass the question off to you. This is a bit of a rant today on a guy that I've been seeing pop up everywhere, and I don't think his influence, though he does make a lot of great points, doesn't equate into any actual long-term value as an investor, and therefore I'm going to make his advice null. I'm not going to listen to it. I'll take it with a grain of salt. I get where he's coming from, but I will take in my own advice because that is equated to actual returns. And again, I'm not a financial advisor, but in light of all this, stay cool, stay awesome, and I'll catch you tomorrow.